Hello and welcome to Crabs in a Bucket Syndrome, second language learner needs at El Paso Community College's Rio Grande campus. My name is Brian Kirby. I'm assistant professor in the English discipline at El Paso Community College's Rio Grande campus. Before I get too in-depth with the explanation of this project, first I'd like to start with an explanation of this high-dollar, highfalutin title. Crabs in a Bucket Syndrome is a public education metaphor that's getting a lot of play lately. And I feel that its use at the Rio Grande campus is a useful one because it explains the situation there where we have a lot of people with the same end goal, but whose language use could be stifling them or prohibiting them from reaching that goal. Literally, when you picture a bucket full of crabs, you see them trying to get up and out. But in doing so, the top row might be getting up and out, but the bottom rows are pulling them right back down again, thus creating a vicious cycle of perpetuation. When I first started at the Rio Grande campus in the fall of 2012, I was immediately hit with this, the second language use there and the proficiency in Spanish and the deficiency in English use. Then, as a student within El Paso Community College's Teachership Academy Phase 1, I began to do some research and realized that in El Paso, Texas, the population identifies as ESL. Well, close to 3/4 of the population does so. And Rio Grande's campus is one of the closest institutions of higher learning that, to an international border. In fact, it's but 15 blocks away. And at the Rio Grande campus, over half my students enrolled in my English courses report their home city as Ciudad Juarez. That is to say, daily they cross the border from their homeland to attend classes at an English-speaking institution, excuse me, where their goal is to earn a degree in higher education. However, their use of Spanish is dominant while their use of English is minimal. Inside the classroom, students are really reticent to use English. Their papers, their oral skills, oral spoken language skills also demonstrate a diminished English vocabulary. So I, as a single language speaker, English only, began to harp and beg for my students to increase their English language acquisition. I was mistaken. I was a frustrated, yet understanding, yet frustrated English professor who associated vocabulary increase with college success for Spanish-speaking students. Part of the Phase 1 project had me creating an action research plan. Part of that plan was to develop a question that I could research and document. I decided that I would give my students the opportunity to learn from somebody other than myself. Perhaps this English-only teacher would benefit by bringing in some outside references. And so I developed this question: would students be motivated to improve their use of college-level standard edited American English by experiencing successful self-taught dual language speakers of the borderland community? The self-taught was hopefully for students to recognize the importance of work outside of the classroom, homework, preparation. So with that, my procedure included taking 2 sections of English 1301. The first section, Group 1, would experience the guest speakers who self-identify as second language speakers. The second group of English 1301 students experienced no guest speakers at all. Rather, they endured the semester and the dailiness of the grind with yours truly. So over the course of the semester, I had students visit testyourvocab.com, initially at the beginning of the semester, and then, of course, at the culmination of the semester. Testyourvocab.com is a website that can, according to their claims, conclude a person's vocabulary within a 10% margin of error, rounding to the nearest 100. The logarithm and math that they use is beyond my math skills, and it would be a grave misstep on my part to try to explain that to you now. But their claims are seemingly pretty accurate. For example, not to brag or anything like that. But I had several colleagues in the English department, and we all tested around the 33,000 mark. Other students who were first-year English-only speakers also tested around the mark that Test Your Vocab determined would be average for a first-year college student at 17,500. So at the beginning of the fall semester 2014, after students visited testyourvocab.com, the average student in Group 1 had a vocabulary of 8,400 words. The second group of students for that section, for a different section of English 1301, had an average vocabulary of 8,000 words. Then throughout the course of the semester, weeks 4, 6, 8, and 10, the guest speakers came, presented, shared their stories of success, how acquiring the transactional language of their community improved their lives professionally, socially, and those students were then allowed to assimilate to that or accommodate that as ever they chose. Then at the end of the semester, during week 13, students revisited testyourvocab.com, went through the same process again, and as you can see, Group 1, their increase was to 8,500 words, while Group 2 saw an increase of also 100 words. The conclusion is a disappointing one, seemingly. Both Group 1 and Group 2 experienced a less than 1% increase in language acquisition. My naive assumption was that by experiencing these motivational speakers, students would really want to acquire more English language vocabulary. And also, the other seemingly disappointing conclusion was the motivational guest speakers weren't as motivating as I thought. However, there's some realities to consider. Adult second language acquisition requires years, not weeks, not a semester of daily rigorous practice. Part of the value of the Teachership Academy was going through this process. It allowed me to reshape and reshift my approach to teaching a population of second language speakers. Also along the way, another resource that the college provided for the faculty was the Southwest Seminar for Great Teaching. During my initial semester with the college, I got to attend this, and the theme for that particular seminar was learning is lifelong. And that is something that I think all instructors need to recognize, is that the skills that we provide our students are not to be measured and forgotten in a 16-week semester. Instead, we hope to arm them with the skills that they take into the rest of their academic and professional lives. Now then, if you are teaching a second language population, you owe it to yourself to learn a second language right along with them. Otherwise, you cannot sympathize nor empathize with the struggles that they endure. The taxing daily grind of accommodating a second language, always being in a state of translation, always have an equation sign in your mind is not an easy one to navigate. So if you're a teacher and you speak the one language and you're dealing with second language speakers, you owe it to yourself to learn a second language as they are. Now looking forward, we need to recognize that Bedrock ain't just the Flintstones' hometown. Instead, English 1301 could and should be a foundation of language appreciation, not language acquisition. We owe it to ourselves to teach our students to appreciate acquiring and mastering the language. Also, English 1301 can foster development of critical thinking skills, as well as an increased understanding of the English language. But for me to think that I was going to double or perhaps triple a student's language vocabulary was grossly mistaken, and it was something that was a valuable lesson as a result of the Teachership Academy Phase 1 and Phase 2. I owe a lot to the people who came in and spoke to my students. They shared some very valuable stories. I owe Test Your Vocab a lot for giving me the measuring device to create some data. I owe of course, the federal government, and of course, a lot of thanks to the Southwest Seminar, but the ultimate thanks goes to the Teachership Academy, its steering committee, and its participants for helping me in the production of this presentation.